Good morning. My name is Cheri-Ann James, and I'm the editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper in East London. In the studio today, we have the Premier of the Eastern Cape Government, Mr. Oscar Mabuyane, who will be talking more about the 7th Administration's strategic objectives to drive growth in the province. Good morning, Premier, and thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Cheri-Ann. Thank you very much for having me here, and it's not for the first time.
Yes.
It's continuous. Becoming more accustomed to this environment. Thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you. I think it's a great opportunity to just bring you closer to your constituency and the readers, the listeners out there, just so they can hear firsthand from you just what the plans are to drive this province forward. Mr. Premier, let's just take it back 1 second and let's just reflect on the year that was 2024. It was a historical year for the country. We had 30 years of democracy celebrations, and we had a historic elections that ended up with a government of national unity being formed as a result of that. In terms of the Eastern Cape, what are some of the major highlights in your book, in your mind, that you can share with us?
Well, unfortunately, government doesn't really work over the period of 12 months. Government works over the period of 3 years, that is MTF, over the period of 5 years, which is the 5-year strategic plannings, over the period of 10 years, which is our development plans, because those are medium to long term.
Yes.
But in this context, you can't just talk about last year, which is 2025, in isolation of 1994. As we have just indicated that last year we're celebrating 30 years of democracy in our country. So whatever that you would have seen last year probably as an achievement, or whatever that would have attained last year, it's something that has been part
In
of
the
the building
pipeline,
block
yes.
Coming from those years. Yes, of course, the first 5 years was the very most difficult years in the Eastern Cape, comparatively speaking to other provinces, because we are a bit a unique province like Limpopo, besides being rural. But we are the provinces that had to assemble government from scratch, pulling together not less than 2 or probably about 3 administrations to form one government.
Yeah.
Because we said 70 years ago, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And this year for us, it's a year of remembering that when we celebrate 70 years of Freedom Charter. So last year was another year building and learning from that. As you would understand, that part of our priorities from the last term, that is the 6th term, was to build a strong, capable, ethical, and a developmental state. That was also out of the experiences of trying to navigate the development trajectory of the country. There would have been a lot of setbacks, whether it's issues of state capture, this or that. But from 1994, working through the RDP, gear as a policy where people believe that it brought about a strong fiscal consolidation, brought about an economic growth, which was a jobless economic growth. But it is only then where we were able to see the economy moving up to 5% growth. But it couldn't really help us to move forward. As we're moving beyond 2000, going to where we are now, we have been on a downward spiral trend in terms of economic growth.
Yeah.
But the last term, if you allow me not to speak just only about last year, the last term, which is the 6th term, I think that was a turning point in the Eastern Cape in terms of trying to get government function more with agility, more coherently, more focus. Not that other terms were not. But remember, those other terms were more working on the basis of creating a foundation for us. But I can't run away from politics.
Yeah.
The instability in our province, political instability to be specific, had a serious negative contributing effect. If you look at the turnover of the leadership, you talk about premiers. I'm not sure whether I'm a 5th or whatever premier, but there would have been a couple of premiers that could not, some finish even a term, some finish 1 term, go. In government, you can't work like that. Even 5 years is too small.
Politics translated into the government functions.
Exactly. So the 5 years itself is too small. You need time. One of countries that are being made as kind of role models in terms of fast-tracking development. Took more than 30 years. You look at Rwanda. Every person speaks about Rwanda as if Rwanda is a special thing. Kagame is almost more than 30 years now as a president. So that tells you the nature of working in government. And Owar Tambo said this thing when he once prophesied that we might think that pursuing a struggle, underground exile, armed struggle is a most difficult thing. Wait and see when you are in government, when our people are demanding things after things, sometimes not even appreciating things that they have. You then understand the challenge that you have. So you needed a government that is alert, a government that is really apt, a government that is focused, a government that doesn't lose the track. You know where you were and where you are going and where you are coming from. So the last term, the 6th term, has been a very, very good term. It's one of those terms that we started to build strongly around serious improvement on education outcomes. But besides that, but also on rollout of infrastructure. We built about 100 schools. I've never heard another province that managed to get that kind of a target. But if you look at from 1994 until now, most huge health infrastructure you have in the Eastern Cape were not there.
And that's been developed.
You've never had a Makiwan of 1.2 billion, which is there now today, with the state-of-the-art facilities, the development that has been happening around Frere. You never had Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital before 1994. These are programs that came through. But you look at our universities as well, the infrastructure that we have pumped into our universities as government to improve the capacity of our universities, creating more kind of conducive environment. Now, as we speak in the Eastern Cape, we've got a 2nd medical school. For years, we've been having only one school. And I'm also happy that South Africa has been having only one vet school in Pretoria, the whole country relying on it. But Eastern Cape is the province that has got the largest livestock of animals. Cattle, sheep, horse, you name them, chicken. But I'm happy to say now, finally, out of our insistence and pursuance negotiation, now we will be the 2nd province, and the 1st or the 2nd vet school will be in a black university, University of Fort Hare. These are major, major achievements that probably sometimes we will always take for granted when we are looking at them from far. So I'm just saying the 6th term built strongly on the previous terms. If you look at the small town revitalization program, where I grew up from in Ngobo, I never knew that one day there will be Spa in Ngobo, there will be ShopRite. In Ngobo, there will be all this retail that you see. Today, there is not a week ago, I was opening up a regional mall in Aidutjwa. Almost all big shops, clothing and retail that I used to see in Hemingway's in East London, they are in Aidutjwa today. So there's no need for people from Aidutjwa to come to East London.
Traveling to East London.
To shop
it's
around.
Right there.
So that's rural development. If you look at the work that we've rolled out in terms of STR, small town revitalization, almost many of our rural towns are developed. And the more we're putting that infrastructure, drainage system, surfacing of internal streets, etc., that attracts the investment. That's why now it's easy to get ShopRite deciding to go and invest there. And remember, there's a market there. With all the challenges that we have of difficult economic growth, government still looks after the ordinary people in this country. Eastern Cape alone gets about 36 billion a year on security grants. I'm sorry, the social security grants. So if you look at that, towns like Aidutjwa and others, they get about 50 to 60 million a month. It's a huge economy that gets into that. So these are things that we're doing in trying to push back frontiers of poverty. So these are interventions that have been done by this government. We've developed so many towns. I grew up in Alice for some time. Alice was just a joke. Up until I went to a University of Connecticut, sent by Forte, when I was an SRC president. And I saw a town called Stores, a small town in a rural the province of Connecticut, where University of Connecticut is. That town is everything. You know,
it was thriving.
It is thriving, turned that university into a university town. And we came back and said, our university must stop being ivory towers. Forte can no longer be there for more than 100 years, but it lives its own life, and it is surrounded by the worst
to be part of the community.
Poverty. Exactly. We had to transform that, bring it back, and today you see dairy farms, you see agriculture thriving. In the past, people used just to read about agriculture at Forte in the books, and from there they go to a small farm of the university just to do practicals. Now we've got dairy farms.
The practical experience.
So that's exactly what I saw in Stores, where the companies, the production is happening there. They are able to produce cheese. There are dairy farms. It's rural areas in US. So these are things that we've got to put in our minds when we look back from where we are. Look at the road between Digeni and the Kwamakoma, that is Fort Beaufort. We used to travel not less than 30 minutes from there to that side. Now travel almost less than 10 minutes.
It's quick.
The road is quick, it's big, it has been opened up.
The road is beautiful.
Even the road between Konge and Digeni used to be a terrible road. Many people died, people lost their lives. So a lot has happened in terms of changing this province. Sixth term, yes, because I became a premier in 2019, building from that, having been a secretary for 8 years, knowing exactly what our government is doing and where things should be moved around. I think we have tried to really push, and we became a bit more actually aggressive in getting things done, building up to the 7th term. We are starting the 7th term. We have just delivered a budget of a 7th term in the province. We have got a clear mandate. We have got 3 strategic guideline the objectives that are guiding us in this term. Your job creation, reduction of poverty, improving people's lives. So it's part of the work that we are expected to be doing moving forward, but also building a strong, capable, ethical and development state, because you need government to function optimally. If government doesn't function optimally, things won't go right.
Things will fall apart.
Things will fall apart. For business to prosper and thrive, you need government to function. You need government to be credible, so that you stop all these shenanigans, things that we are hearing about. This government is for others, not for others. Even people are questioning everything, even the procurement. Procurement must be transparent, must be objective. People who are capable and competent must be given the jobs. One painful thing that I've learned and experienced as a premier is when a company is appointed, there in the procurement process, where you think that an eye of a needle has been used to make sure that whoever goes through that person will be able to deliver. Those people collapse.
Thoroughly vetted,
Those people collapses. We've got a couple of roads that have collapsed. That we should have done with them in the last 3 years. Whether it's Mlamli Road in Stegspruit, whether it's
you should have done the due diligence.
Exactly. So those companies are given big jobs, they collapse in the work and leave the job like that, and we must start a scratch, and the systems of government are not as easy as your private company, where you can say you don't perform, go tomorrow I appoint someone else. So
it's more complex within the government space.
Very, very complex, very, very complex, but it needs efficiency, it needs visionaries, it needs people who can see things. So you don't have to spend a year in order to see that this person or this company can't perform. You know, you keep people in local government who are giving you disclaimers as municipal managers and the CFO. Someone finishes 5 years. From the day one, a person gives you a disclaimer, adverse, you still renew a contract of that person and that tells you, that's where the corruption issue comes in. There is no other motivation other than corruption that can make me, when I'm not performing, but I will still be preferred
have a job,
to be given that. So we said, let's look at the meritocracy as part of the renewal agenda the governing party, in this case ANC, has instructed us to do. So we're moving, and we've done a lot of improvement with health. You remember in the previous terms, health and education used to be our apex priorities.
Yes.
Now the life expectancy of our people has improved in the province from where it used to be. You would understand we are a labor-saving province. The migrant labor system has been terrible on us. So our people are living at a very prime age. They go outside the province, go and work, particularly in mines. At 50, 55, they come back. They are older than me. Yeah. They all rely on what government can do for them. So we're working, and I was saying we need to talk to those companies. I know they've got their own social labor plans and other things. They are not enough. You see, those people, when they come, they really become a burden in the government, particularly health.
Because they become reliant on the services here.
So there is no long-term investment in those companies to say, when these people get exposed to asbestosis and other things, silicosis, they get all these kind of sicknesses that they get in mines. How do we look after them beyond the age of their productivity?
Yes.
We must be responsible, because the corporate social investment should be talking to such, other than just to build a clinic or build a school and all that. It ends there. So I'm just saying, we are trying to get government. It's not going to be easy. We had 40 years of the apartheid system. We had more than 300 years
and you have to
of
try
the
and
colonial.
Dismantle all of that.
Dismantle all of that. And remember, we went through the democratic dispensation through negotiations. Some still believe that whatever that they do, they are right. That's why you have got people called people in Orania. They think that they are right in whatever that they are doing. Yeah. They can live their own lives, etc. So it looks like those who are oppressed in South Africa must be the one who extend an olive branch, instead of those who are beneficiaries of the oppression
state
to be the one, because they've accumulated so lot. Look at the issue of the land. We talk a lot about land expropriation without compensation, or land restitution and land redistribution. Most of land that government is buying back, that land was never bought. It was actually grabbed.
It was taken from the people.
Forcibly from our ordinary people. So, but government must still pay back that. You know, I was in one of the areas in Kiskama a few days ago, Lower Gumenya, listening to people. A big Sandilet dam has been built there, and people were forcefully removed. And then a local traditional chief says to me, during Seben's time, things were moving, we're getting this. And I'm saying, but to date, you are getting 100 million. You are compensated 100 million on a land that you are complaining that you were removed on. So do you want us to go back to the autocratic system?
And this current government is the one that...
This current government, out of taxpayers' money, must actually redress the imbalances of the past, correct all those kind of unfortunate situations. Yes, of course, the democracy can be very challenging. It needs smart leadership. Needs a meticulous approach, needs a proper models on how you deal with issues, because it needs a proper social facilitation. You must get people buying into something, unlike what would have happened here under the independent of Siskai and others, where you were simply told, we're going to build a school, move here. If how you move to where, it's your business. It's not government business, as long as government has identified this. So I'm saying you are correcting those issues. Sometimes our people are abusive. They abuse the fact that this is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. And even where we are doing things, we are building roads. We are unable to move in building roads in other areas. You look at
because of
Mtata. Vigisville, for the last 3-4 years, Sandral hasn't been able to move to do a dueling. That is 4 roads from Vigisville to Mtata to allow traffic to flow, because people have built along the road. And it's not supposed to be like, law doesn't allow. People are building on top of the railway line, which is the most important enabler for logistics and economic growth. So these are things that are happening that we always try to reach out at our people. Going to 20...
How do you do that? How do you communicate with people in that instance? You talk specifically about the Vigisville matter, for instance, how that's actually holding up development and how it's holding up progress because of the people building there not wanting to move. How as government do you tackle that?
Remember, South Africa, we've got a very complex issue of land tenure system. As we speak now, I can't tell you even as a premier who controls the land demarcation in rural areas. Traditional leaders are doing it. If you want those land parcels for the growth and housing construction, they go to a local chief, or local chief simply goes, or a king simply goes and do that. In the past, it used to be done collaboratively. The land affairs brings maps and all that, and that thing is done, and it's done appropriately. Today, people simply wake up and go there, I need that piece of land, and the chief...
And you don't have authority over it because it's traditional land.
So those are problems. The communal land, it's a very difficult one to manage. And I'm just saying, things that are holding us up, besides Vichisville, you talk about the road from airport to Mthatha Airport, that goes into town in Mthatha again. It's a similar situation. The money is there, designs are there, Sandral hasn't been moving to ensure that that road is done, because as you get through the Mandela Park, the east of Mthatha, you can't move. People have built on top of the road. And unfortunately, you need that to open up that road, because around there, this is where we are developing a third SZ of this province, the Wild Coast SZ. So the area soon will be huge industrial area. There will be a flurry of activities, a boom, economic boom that is taking place there. So there must be a movement of logistics between that area and Mthatha, that area and the airport, and how do you link that area to East London, and how do you link East London to PE, etc., etc. So we are working tirelessly to work with our people around these issues. It's not easy, I must say, but slowly but surely we are getting there. Getting into seventh term, as you asked, the seventh term is about these three priorities, because they've got now a GNU. You spoke about May
2024.
Yes, a difficult one, which came as a shock, even though the surveys were kind of hinting that these things are likely to happen. I must say we might have been beating a denial, particularly from the government as a ruling party. So, but that's a reality. ANC is a majority which is minority, because you can't form your own government.
Yeah, you need buy-in from your partners. You need
buy-in from all, which makes things a little bit very difficult. But we have identified as a province 5 frontiers of growth, where we're speaking about niche, and those niche areas is the one that we've identified during 2026, where we spoke about oceans economy for the first time, speaking it with intention. To a point of developing a master plan on oceans economy with Nelson Mandela University. That master plan is there now. We're working around it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that oceans economy plan? I know it's one of those phrases that often gets thrown around and people don't really understand what it means. Just explain to us very simply what is the oceans economy and what does this master plan entail to actually get it going?
Oceans economy is about fishing. Oceans economy is about bunkering. Oceans economy is about servicing of big ships. And you must see this. We are so strategic as the Eastern Cape, whether you look at us from an Indian or Atlantic Ocean. Those would want to go coming down Pacific, Indian Ocean to Atlantic, up to Pacific or Mediterranean, they via us. We should be that center where ships don't just pass far from us, particularly
need to come to our
either
ports.
in East London or in PE. They must come and stop and spend a week. They are service, that's jobs. So for us, that is oceans economy. You talk about LNG, work, oil and gas, the work that we're doing, which we can only do that. You talk about drilling in the Indian Ocean. All that must be done in a very sustainable way. You know, I was speaking to the Shell guys who came here to try to do an exploration. spent about 2 billion. Unfortunately, they were taken to court. They had to pack and leave.
Yeah.
Now they are appealing
Very
the matter.
controversial matter,
You
yeah.
see? So they are still insisting. I met them also 2-3 weeks ago in Cape Town
Okay.
in the oil and gas. I'm still pursuing them that there is something
So
in
there's
the
still conversations currently
a
happening
lot,
with regards
because
to
we are
the
supporting,
exploration.
we are supporting the development of Eastern Cape. We are supporting that development in the Wild Coast, but it must be sustainable. It must take care of the environment.
Yes.
When we talk about sustainable development, we talk about balancing the development with conservation or the protection of the environment. So that is done. So when you chase them away here, they go up north west in Namibia.
Find another partner.
Namibia allows them to explore. They drill up and get up this oil and gas. You know, I was in Qatar talking to the Qatar authorities. They are partner into this initiative. They want to come and invest, and this is untapped. The 800-kilometer coastline of Eastern Cape is untapped.
Yeah.
7 species of fish that South Africa is actually marketing or exporting. They are here in the Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape.
They are being fished here, taken out of here, either Durban or Cape Town. Others, they are exported directly from here. It can't be right. So Eastern Cape should have been one of those key players in the ocean's economy. So that's what we mean.
Local people benefit from what's
Local
happening.
people being direct benefit. That's why we've started this process of opening that market by giving our people fishing rights, but fishing licenses. But a fishing license without a boat is nothing. You are permanently saying that they must remain being black divers.
Yeah.
They must go and dive for them to get into that. We must now, when we give a cooperative person a disadvantage, a fishing permit, that person must get a boat so that you can go and fish and get proper fish so that we begin to commercialize. Get factories. We can't fish here, but process.
And then we can't process it in the province.
And process somewhere. It can't be. So it's just like the livestock. It's like your sheep cattle.
Yes.
Eastern
And the
Cape is the 5th largest production of red meat in South Africa. But many cattle, sheep, goats are here. That simply means we are taking them from here into other provinces for feedlots, whether it's Northern Cape or Free State. And remember, there was a concentration deliberately by Boers to develop Free State as an agricultural hub, you know. So they are far advanced than anyone else in terms of a capacity on agriculture. But we are saying we should be turning that thing.
Can we play catch-up, Premier? Are we able to get to that point where we actually...
Definitely. We need attitude.
Tell us a little bit more about, you mentioned the livestock. Tell us a little bit more about the red meat industry and what the province's plans are just to build that particular industry in the province.
Already we are rolling out, if you have listened to the MEC's policy speech, we are rolling out a lot of feedlots because we want those animals to be prepared here, to be ready for the market. You know, we've been having this 2 billion deal with Almawash, which was taking livestock here to Kuwait.
Yeah.
We're doing it as part of trying to open up the market, but I was reluctant as a premier because if you sell a sheep and a cow live, you are selling job because you can only get job on processing. But if you just drive those sheep, flock of sheep and the head of cattle into that sheep here in East London, you are selling the skin, which you can be doing something about the skin here, your shoes and other things. Yeah. You are selling meat, etc. So in a cow, you get skin, you get meat, you get milk. Yeah. You know, in a sheep, you get a skin, you need this wool. Yeah. And now China is taking everything about this, is processing everything that we are doing this side. It just can't be right. So we've got to look at those issues, and exactly this is the point that we're doing. That's a very clear brief of the ECRDA with the new CEO, Somgyala, that let's go and look at all possible ways to invest on agro-process. We've been trying this thing,
and it's
remember.
Diversifying the industry there.
Diversify. It's long overdue. we should have long diversified our economy out of reliance of auto sector. Look at what's happening now in the auto sector, the challenge that we have, the transition now from the combustion engine into decarbonized, or EV. Now, while we are still stuck with that, here is the president of US coming up with executive orders. Tariffs. And he says, I'm putting tariffs in South Africa, 30% or 31% on tariffs. And he goes on and say, on the auto sector, I'm putting 25% more. That would mean it's 51%. He's literally killing the industry. Remember, we are that hub of the entire South Africa. So cars that you see moving around here in South Africa, more than 50% of those cars are done in
produced in the Eastern Cape.
You see, because we are that hub. And this has been an economy that has been keeping this province going for more than 6 decades. So we've got to protect it at all costs. We've got to do everything possible. It's here not because of anybody's choice, but because of our strategic geographic location. Just like your wind farms that we are seeing, those wind turbines, they can go anywhere, but we're here because we are endowed with sun and with wind. It makes better for us to be here and Northern Cape as well. That's why now we have actually been reproducing or proliferating the turbine skills. Those turbine skills are being taken out of this country into Australia. They are being those people lured into Australia, whom we are training. We've got a lot of these wind turbines, wind farms around here, but we don't have capacity, transmission capacity. When we have done that electricity being generated out of the renewable energy, it becomes difficult to load it in the national grid for contribution, but there's not capacity.
So we have that gap within the system that we are not catering to.
Yes, now the minister is addressing that. That's why minister is talking to that. That's why I was with minister in Qatar. That's why I was with minister in Japan. We're following up on this. That includes the biggest project of our lifetime, the 100 billion project of the green ammonium, the hydrogen, which is here, and the best site available. That is more ready than any site, whether you talk about Northern Cape or you talk about Western Cape, it is Kucha. And everybody agrees.
To roll that out.
To roll that one out and initiate. And we're moving towards that direction where the new kind of transformation that has been done with Eskom, separation of Eskom, transmission capacity, forming a new company, it is putting up plans in place which are addressing Eastern Cape gas is energy supply from
tell us a little bit more
Mpumalanga.
about that. Please tell us a little bit more about the hydrogen plan and Kucha specifically. Because given where we come from as a country, with our energy crisis and, we are still in limbo. We don't know at what point we're going to get back to load shedding being reintroduced. But tell us a little bit more about energy and our initiatives, specifically the Kucha plan. Just give us a little bit more detail on that.
We're very much advanced. I think the team that is investing there, I wouldn't really want to talk that. I would want you to invite Kabashe
to come and chat with us. We'll definitely do that.
But I'm quite happy with the progress and commitment that business, those business people are prepared to invest. We've been going with them in these trips as business people, business to business. And I was briefed lately that Japan has came back to agree and sign on off-take agreement. So whatever that we produce here, then there must be off-take agreements that are there. So there is a progress there. So minister has committed himself to move with that one and get it done. So I'm quite happy with that progress.
In terms of where it's going.
Yes, I know Northern Cape is the biggest. But Northern Cape still needs to do Bochebai, which will be done probably in the next 10 to 20 years. We have got a Kucha now, a deep water port, which can do LNG, which can do all these things that we're talking about. Whether Total is able to identify these the multiple cubic feet up between Mosselbaai and PE. The only area where you can then consolidate that and channel is Kucha. Because this is where we've got an infrastructure on.
We have the capacity to do it.
And I'm quite happy that ourselves with ministers concerned, we are aligned around that. President is coming here next week with about 25 ministers in his program. of visiting the provinces and the municipalities like metros. Part of our agenda is to discuss the economy of the province, which I believe it has been lagging behind. And I used to make this point, and I continue making it. You know, we might be peripheral to the center, but we remain the center of the periphery. It's important that whoever does this nationally, you've got to look at that. We can be a country of our own as Eastern Cape, but we need capacity. We need to be linked to the economic hub of the country. That's why now government has finally approved the development and the capacity of the rail line, the South Corridor, a line which connects Johannesburg to Pretoria, because we've got a lot of commodities that must be moved between either Northern Cape or Gauteng. Your manganese, your cars. Ford said, we are exporting 80% of what we manufacture in Silverton, in Pretoria. But we don't want to go to the congestion of Durban, or we don't want to go to Mozambique. We want to take our cars down. We've got experience of Gqeberha, because we have been working in Gqeberha. Ford at Strandale has been there. Ford is the first company to produce a car here 100 years ago. That's why NACAM and NAMSA agreed to say for the first time they are taking their major national events this year to Eastern Cape. The South African Auto Week will be happening here in the Eastern Cape for the first time, and I was asking that question. After 100 years, why would we still not doing it? If the first car was done in the Eastern Cape. So Eastern Cape needs that support. Unfortunately, some of these are national competencies. You can do as much as you can, but you need to get your ministers to push. And we are a unitary state. We are not a federal state where you can run with your own or run your own race. But I'm quite happy and I'm quite pleased with the conversation that we have that seeks to elevate and take Eastern Cape where we are. We are so strategic. We are a province with 3 ports. Ports are so critical from a logistics point of view. So the reason that auto sector feels easy and comfortable to be here is simply because of these ports that are here. So you've got to get TNPA meeting the deadlines. The only problem we have been having here is a question of having projects done, conceptualized, but from a project management plan, they get disrupted.
It doesn't.
Your Mtombo, you lost Mtombo oil refinery. Your LNG was announced by the president that Kuha is going to be an LNG hub, etc. These are projects that have been delayed because of the balance sheet in the Transnet. But I'm quite happy that Transnet is on board. We are almost meeting, talking weekly, a board chair, the group CE, to make sure that all the commitments they've made for Eastern Cape are done. And this is where we're going to be creating jobs. These are niche areas. These are catalytic projects. You talk about Mzimvubu. Mzimvubu was conceptualized in 1960. We could only do it 60 years later. It's only now taking place, the first phase of 8 billion. So this is bad. If you talk about N2 highway.
Just a slow progress.
You talk about the N2 highway, those 2 bridges, Msikaba and Mtentu, that road that connects Durban and East London, which is going to cut the traveling time of trucks between Durban and East London by 3 hours. It's a huge economy from a logistics point of view. So that road was meant to be done in 2003. It took 20 years for it to be done. If we're developmental, we can't work like that.
No,
it's
slow. It's a slow pace.
Very.
Premier, you've spoken a lot about some of the projects in terms of trying to drive economic growth, and there's been a very fierce, I think, attempt on your side to go outside of the country even to get that foreign investment in the province. Can you just talk to us about some of those initiatives, some of those potential investment opportunities from outside of the province? And then I want to ask you if you could just also then touch on this question. Why should those investors come to the province? What makes the Eastern Cape such an attractive province for investors outside of the country?
We have an untapped, really unparalleled potential if you compare us to others. Soon others will be saturated. You look at the mining areas are now becoming defunct. If you go to the West Rand in Gauteng, big mines that used to be there, where I even went to myself at my younger age at some point, that those mines are no longer functioning properly. So Eastern Cape offers you this alternative, but you need water and energy to industrialize. That's why we've got to address the fundamentals. Eastern Cape has got water, but unfortunately Eastern Cape has got more than 6 perennial rivers that are flowing from the mountain down to Indian Ocean undisturbed. So the reason of electricity, we should be doing more on hydropower and other initiatives. That's why in Mzimvubu, part of our plans in Mzimvubu is to create that dam for the water consumption. But in that dam, it's a multi-purpose dam that will be able to give you aquaculture, give you tourism, and many other economic activities that should be coming out of that. And the reason that for 60 years, the previous regimes didn't want to have that dam done, it's simply because this is where they draw the massive of their labor from. So those people would not be going anywhere.
Yeah.
They would have been living out of agriculture, living their lives, progressing very well. Because you go to work simply because you want to feed your family.
Yeah.
You don't just want to go to work simply because it's for fun. So if you have got another alternative way of looking after yourself and your family, you can be able to make an income. There's no need for you to wake up and go to work other than waking up and look after what you have. So we are trying to go back there and try to get things like those. So we are moving around the world because as province, it has been one of our weaknesses. We have never exploited the economic diplomacy. South Africa has been good in the world. Our systems have been well received by the entire globe, but we have never exploited even how we select ambassadors when I look at it in the past.
Yeah.
So I see now the momentum is there. I know the ambassador in the European Union has been a really nerve on me to say, I'm waiting for you here. I want you to come and address European Union because all the investors that we have here in Europe are actually coordinated here. We are exporting almost more than 40% of our citrus to European Union countries, unlike what is perceived. Yes, there might be an AGOA that will be affected on agriculture, etc. But we are only exporting 4% of our citrus to US. And we're big in citrus here, following Limpopo and others. We're very big on citrus, and we still need that market. That's why we're working on infrastructure. If you look at our citrus belt, whether you look at your pineapple areas in Ngquswa, building the roads that we're building to make traveling between Gqeberha, Makana, Qonce easy, but also we're building a billion road between Kirkwood and Motherwell, therefore Gqeberha towards the Kucha, because that citrus that we get in that citrus, when I go there,
from that area,
I always have this thing in my mind that this is our Stellenbosch.
No, true.
This is our Stellenbosch. It's just that the problem might have lacked a vision to drive it to a point where it's supposed to be. So we're putting everything.
And now we have that vision now, and we're moving towards
we have pumped a lot in terms of small town river. If you go to Kirkwood, you see there's a big event there.
Wildfeest.
Yeah, Wildfeest. Yeah. I attended once. It gets about 40,000 people.
Sure.
Many of them are only whites.
Yeah, I've only ever heard of it. I've never been.
Please go.
Okay.
Please go. I went there once. I've already got an invitation. Please come back to me again. Most of them are farmers, whites, and all that. It's a big one. But they appreciate that Kirkwood face has completely changed. We've worked on surfacing all internal streets there. We've put a lot of investment. They can see. Even now, the investors that are investing in those farming there, they see the difference of what is happening. We just need to fix the municipality. Because the municipalities has been hopeless. The municipality hasn't been really working very well. So immediately we get municipalities working right in that space, we should be able to have that area prospering.
Once you have a functioning local government.
Yes. So I'm just saying, these are a lot of initiatives that we're looking at from a commercialization point of view. Remember, the bulk of commercialized agricultural initiatives in the Eastern Cape are on the west.
Yeah.
That west is Sarabatman.
Yeah.
Because of the land tenure system. It's easy to commercialize this side than to work on the other side. We are trying our level best, as you are speaking about. How are we going to deal with issues of poverty, etc.? This year, we have put money to make sure that we are plowing more than 27,000 hectares to produce. And the question has been that after you have produced, what do you do with
What
that?
happens?
We have tried a couple of red hubs where we're putting those mealy machines and other things in Mbizana, in Ngocha, in Mkanduli, etc. But unfortunately, again, because of poor planning and lack of vision, you put a grill, what do you call a mealy, whatever, machine or stone that is there, but you plow red meat, but that one needs a white maize. But you put a red maize in your fields. A mismatch and the poor planning.
Yeah.
So we are trying to align everything. That's why I said in the departments, all of us, let's discuss economics. In whatever that you do, you must be developmental. If you have got a developmental mind, you are then addressing the economics.
That has to be a key performance indicator. How are we going to drive progress?
This is where we are going to get jobs. Use the public purse to unlock the potential of business. I met with the business of Nelson Mandela yesterday, the business chamber.
Yeah.
I had a meeting with them. They represent more than 500 companies, the big business there, Volkswagen and everybody. They are part of that. All of them still committed to South Africa, and they're making it a point that they can invest everything. Remember, even the headquarters of Coca-Cola for Continent are here in the Eastern Cape, in Gqeberha, the headquarters of Continent. It's only the headquarters of South Africa that are in Midrand. So how to build
but
around...
the Continent's headquarters are here in the province.
These are things that we don't know sometimes and speak about. So you talk about NPA, the battle that we have been having of getting NPA headquarters relocating. Because we can't continue with Transnet being KZN 70%, one province in 9 provinces.
No.
So we've got to transform and dismantle that and allow all other provinces to grow. You need an even distribution of national resources so that all provinces can grow.
Yeah.
So
Everyone has equal opportunity.
Eastern Cape is bigger than many countries. It's bigger than many countries in Africa. You see, even its GDP. And we said we've got to push our GDP to double digits if we would want to see a proper progress in terms of job creation. And we've got to work hard on the issue of the job growth rate. Yes, we've been saying 2%, 1.8%, 3%. It's difficult. It's going to be worse now. I don't want us to be under any illusion.
Yeah.
Now that there are tariffs that have been imposed on us, I can tell you that has brought a lot of uncertainty in the business space. It is very difficult. I heard it myself yesterday in the meeting with business community in Nelson Mandela. Already many other companies are starting to look around. And I heard yesterday that even before this, Ford was already feeling the pinch because of their strategy for realignment. They've already shared about 100 jobs
already. And that's just Stranda. From the uncertainty of it.
So that uncertainty is a problem. The uncertainty of South Africa delaying a policy on electronic vehicles, that on its own is a problem. It is directly dealing with the economy of our province. So that's why we were ahead of the curve as a province in dealing with this matter. That's why, as a province, as we said, by March, we would have launched more than 13 stations. What do you call those stations?
EV stations, the charging stations.
Charging stations. As I've said, 13th charging stations are already there in place. If you have got your EV around here, you can't struggle to know where to go.
Yeah.
Whether you are in Queenstown, whether you are in Mthatha, whether you are in Gqeberha, we have done that. So we are already preparing ourselves much better on that. So the issue that we needed to look at it now much better and closer is the issue of the new entrances into that. Remember, we've been talking about Stellantis, bringing in about 3 billion. And the unfortunate part about this issue of tariffs have put us sort of in a difficult situation. Our backs are against the wall. Even companies or countries that were not really our competitors on this issue, now they've been given a lifeline to stand up, like your Morocco and others, because no tariffs imposed in countries like Morocco. So Morocco can just go ahead and become an alternative. But now we are squeezed as South Africa and as Eastern Cape. But we've got to look at the market. We've got to look at other options. The world is big. BRICS must come.
That's a long-term.
BRICS must come into equation with that economy, with that market that it has in a situation like this. Remember, we are all stuck. Yes, America is the number one economy in the world, but America has got less than 300 million people. If you compare it to India with 1.4 billion, China 1.5 billion, and others. These are big countries that are part of BRICS. And how do we work around these economic issues?
How do we benefit from that partnership?
In the context of these geopolitical dynamics, etc. Yes, unfortunately, the economy of South Africa has been embedded in the economy of Europe and the economy of America. That's why whatever that Trump does, it affects our rand. Because our rand has been more...
If he sneezes, we feel we catch a cold.
It's always been benchmarked against dollar and the pound. So this is the problem that we have. Now it forces the leadership to think deep, bring solutions, bring innovations, creativity, working with business. How best are we going to deal with these so that companies are not closing down simply because
Premier,
of this?
Is that something that as a province you have the power to mitigate, influencing that sort of change? Or is this something that requires national interventions? Because, at this point it's out of our hands.
National policies are evolving. Most of the time they use a bottom-up approach. That's why you have got mechanisms. You have got Presidential Coordinating Council, you have got Minimax, ministers interacting with MECs. It creates a platform and space for MECs, for provinces to come and say things so that we influence the thinking process around the policy formulation. So we've got to be robust. We've got to be effective into that space and make sure that our case is heard. Yes, I know sometimes when we are all under pressure like this, it becomes a situation of survival of the fittest and elimination of the weakest. But as I'm saying, to date, we should not be scared when we've got some issues and challenges around the challenges of HIV and AIDS because of PEPFAR things and all that. We should be able to generate our own vaccines. We did vaccine during COVID under difficult. Why must we be always under difficult situation for us to think outside the box? So this is an issue that we needed to look at.
That
and
visionary thinking that you were talking about earlier.
And we begin to not to be comfortable about being complacent about the current situation. Think about what is going to happen tomorrow. So if you don't do that, you are likely to be in trouble.
You have to be preemptive, because the thing is, when it comes to the provincial government, there's a lot that rests on it, because there's a big responsibility. And I just want to talk just for a little bit about the job situation. You've spoken quite extensively about what are some of the interventions, what are some of the investments, and just programs to sort of drive growth. The Eastern Cape still has very dire statistics. And if you can just allow me, I mean, you surely know this. Our unemployment rate for the fourth quarter of 2024 was 36.6%, and our expanded unemployment rate 47.6%. That makes it the third and second highest unemployment rate in the country. We've seen some gains in certain sectors, but how are we working towards that goal of 2030 to have 2.4 million jobs in the province? Is it feasible? Can we do it given our current interventions and also given the current challenges that we're experiencing as a province?
If we can optimize our ecosystem, functioning of our ecosystem, by that I mean the entire government, national, province, local, we meet timeframes and deadlines. Remember, we have a couple of multi-billion projects that have been delayed either by Transnet or by TNPA, which by now should have created such jobs. And those multi-billion are low-hanging. Next week on Monday, we're opening up a new terminal in the port of Gqeberha with Transnet. In that meeting, I'm also meeting Transnet with South African National Petroleum Company, the new company, which is made up of all these other small companies, your Petro SA, your SSF, that have been there under the oil and gas space. So LNG is a 20 billion project. So these are projects that are low-hanging. If you unlock them, you get everything right. If you unlock this railway line that I spoke about, which has now been unlocked because Minister has confirmed the 2 billion that has been looked for. That 2 billion is unlocking 5 billion from the private sector and SOEs to open up that so that we've got trains easily moving. Between us and Gauteng, taking down the cargo and all that. So these are initial, but besides, government has got its own plans and programs that can take you to more than 600,000 jobs opportunities. The other ones is done by in the Department of Education, almost all sectors. We are already doing that. Currently, we are at 1.4 million people in Eastern Cape employed. And we believe, looking at the sectors and the niche, if you go for cannabis per sector, it can give you massive 10,000 to 100,000 jobs that you can create if you begin to unlock some of teething problems around that. So we're putting that as a vision, and we believe it's possible. As Dr. Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. The bad thing is to sit down and say, I don't know how can we get there. So put a target, work towards a target. Remember, we've got 2030 vision, where we said by 2030, we must have dealt with poverty. It's not only said by us now. It is part of the provincial development plan, which is also part of the national development plan. And what we're saying, national ministers, as they plan, they must know that all of us have got targets down the line. So this is a discussion that we'll also be having with ministers next week around that. We believe we can get there with the 5 frontiers that we have identified: agriculture being key for us, ICT, you name them, manufacturing. So we believe if we can consolidate around that, we can. But of course, with the issues that now we are exposed to, because when we're saying these things, we never knew that we will wake up tomorrow with executive orders day after day coming up, which are directly impacting on our economy. And then you have to pivot. And you remember, a few years ago, we were planning without knowing that there will be a COVID that will come. And we're also a disaster-prone province. As we move forward, disasters come. They're kind of messing us up every day. We go forward, we take 10 steps forward, they take us back 15 steps backward. So, but we're moving, we're forging ahead to make sure that our people in Eastern Cape get jobs and we get all the necessary support. I'm discussing with private sector the issues of health, how best can we get doctors, which we have got about 180 doctors that are out there only from Eastern Cape looking for jobs. As I've said to you, now we have got 2 institutions, 2 medical schools. In the past, you used to have a lesser number that is being processed by Nelson Mandela Medical School in Mthatha. Now we have got a Nelson Mandela University in Gqeberha that is going to be taking out its first lot of the medical students. So it tells you, but also the pass rate of matric. You've got young people now who are passing matric in big numbers with good quality.
Bachelor passes.
Good quality bachelor passes who can do anything out there, including medicine. So we are dealing with this issue with a population that is moving faster than our economic rate, which is giving us this sort of an unbalancing equation that we needed to deal with. So you've got to push our economy at least at 3% and above for us to be able to tackle some of these issues. But if our economy still performs below that, we are definitely in trouble. Now that we are exposed to this, these have been imposed to us, these tariffs by President Trump. We've got to think around those tariffs.
Yeah.
How best? And that's why we said we need to convene firstly the province an economic summit where we put every brain under one roof, say under the circumstances. Here is the vision that we articulated as a province. How do we move forward to make sure that we attain this? But I'm saying with all the key sectors, new sectors, the niche that we've identified, this province, I can tell you, can get some more. We said a few years ago, if we can implement Mzimvubu, we can implement the N2 highway and others, those projects will surely change the socio-economic outlook of our province. That's why now, as I'm speaking to you, adjacent to Mkambat, there will be a huge interchange there that connects Eastern Cape to KZN down to those bridges. Adjacent to that interchange, there is a 5-star hotel investment that has been done. It's already finished, done. So business is coming. Business is seeing the opportunity. So the G20 is here. G20 is also opening up to the market. It's also able to give us opportunities to think and how to diversify, but also how you support your SMMEs. Remember, these jobs can only be created from the SMMEs. Government must create conducive environment. That's why we said as a province, not again, no more, that a conditional grant, infrastructure conditional grant won't be spent in the province. If there's that situation, something must go.
Accountability, Premier, I'm glad you touched on that. I think that is one of the big issues that we are having in, not just from a local government perspective, but also provincial government. How do we ensure that accountability when things like conditional grants aren't being spent?
Maybe that Minister M.A.C. Williams yesterday, when he was presenting his policy speech, amongst other issues that he presented was the standard operating procedures, which is part of us strengthening our support to local government. Remember, local government is an independent sphere, just like province and the national. You see, but we are a unitary state. We are not a federal state. We can't keep our eyes closed and fold our arms when the municipality doesn't perform. 154, 139, all those are meant to create other spheres of government to come in. But what we have picked up is that sometimes deliberately or out of mischief, people behave as if they don't know what to do, what to say. You see, it's a function of leadership not to get an institution functioning properly. It's deliberate. It's anarchic. It's a chaos that is meant to do something which is not meant for this. Immediately you get into a municipality, now mayor doesn't know his or her role, chief whip doesn't know his or her role deliberately, speaker or chief whip, someone wants to take somebody's role. It's a chaos. People don't agree. We have gone and passed that stage. You are given a task, you are a premier, you must perform. If you don't perform, we can't be running around like headless chicken. You must go.
You must go.
You must go. It is as simple as like that. People are getting impatient out there every day, and we cannot entertain that kind of mediocre anymore. We spoke about meritocracy. We have introduced meritocracy for selection of our public representatives. Let's make sure that meritocracy is respected by all. If you are given a position to be a premier, you must know that it's not about you being celebrated. It must be you about living a terrible life as long as people are still sleeping without food.
It's a legacy that you're leaving behind. And especially as we're heading into the local government elections, I think the challenges or the issues people are experiencing on the ground will certainly be amplified over the next year or so as we head towards that. So it really is about how, as government, are we responding to those issues. And I'm glad to hear that is something that, as the provincial government, you are going to be taking very seriously going forward. Premier, I just want to talk to you a little bit more. There's been a lot of, unhappiness or just anger within the Eastern Cape over the last couple of weeks. We had the outcome of the Omatoso trial that people weren't particularly happy with. We had the case of Twetwe in Matatiele. Hundreds and thousands of South Africans have signed a petition. I just wanted your thoughts on that particular case, but I also want you to talk a little bit more about the interministerial committee that's been established within the Eastern Cape government to tackle issues of gender-based violence. It is a massive scourge in our province, in our country. It is something that we are grappling with on a daily basis. Tell me a little bit more about, from a government's perspective, what the plans are to tackle that issue.
Firstly, I think I must express my concern on behalf of government. This has been really worrisome. All these heinous crimes, horrific incidences we've been hearing about, being it with other kids. Remember, in Matatiel, now we talk about 6 kids, not only Kwekwe, who have been recently raped. But I was looking at another report, statistics, that was showing that about 220, something like that, kids in South Africa have been. So that tells you the problem that we're dealing with, a societal problem, which is not only an isolated incident of Eastern Cape. It's a problem. Yes, Eastern Cape has been on the extreme, which worries us because we are not a province like that. Remember, 2018 president came down to launch a gender-based violence, and clear plans were put in place when Lusikisiki was everything about gender-based violence, the rape, this and that. This is a general attitude that we've got to work on in actually dealing with human beings, men. A boy child, how to grow a boy child. But also, to what extent are we having this conversation as not a women conversation, but as a societal conversation? There are other young people who are in jail, anguishing in jails, sentenced on sins that they have not done. Simply because someone wakes up today and decides to say, you raped me, even if it was consensual. So, I mean, we've got a lot of some moral decay that's happening. That doesn't justify terrible things that have happened. But we've got to have a better way of parenting as well and looking after our kids. A sad situation of Kwekwe, 7 or a 9-year-old child who can't speak, but a child is a normal child. At that age, you should be able to say anything that has happened to you. It remains strange to us. What is going on? We've kind of taken almost everybody who would have been a person of interest for DNA, including the principal, who at some point it was said is refusing to go. So the cleaner or caretaker, etc., those people have been taken through. I know the stepfather also said is willing and available. We said, go ahead, let's do this because we need to clear this thing out up until we find the perpetrator. It's a painful situation which we wouldn't want to talk about. Sure. We have a major general assigned to handle this issue from an investigation point of view, working with the investigation officers. So we want to leave it there. We want to appeal to public to give that space. Whoever has an information, that person must bring that information to help us deal with this issue, because if you keep quiet, it's going to happen to you tomorrow. So we do have that fundamental problem of kids who are not safe. It's no longer now about girls. Some of these kids are boys in those schools who have been molested and all that. So it's a worrisome thing that is happening in our society. Recently, we were declared to be a province that is number 1 on gender-based violence and femicide. So it's these things are taboo in our province. We have never been used into something like this, but thanks that working with national, a lot of resources have been pumped into our province. Whether I look at it from South African Police Services, the NPA is now standing up, whether it's a case of Omotoso, etc. So we are all shocked. We really can't fathom exactly what has happened there. So we still want to get answers. If there's a child who can stand there and cry and say, this happened to me.
This is what happened.
But the judge says, no, I don't have a proof to find this person guilty. These are things that must be answered. But unfortunately, we cannot all be judges and investigators and police But if we do have an information, let's follow that process and make sure that we stop it. So I know society is sick and tired of this. Sometimes it is seen to be the failure of the police, but we need families also to come on board and assist. I can tell you, no country can employ a policeman or a woman for each and every household. So gender-based violence in its definition is something that is happening in our own spaces. It's a boyfriend killing a girlfriend. It's a husband killing a wife. It's a father molesting a child or raping a child. It's a stepchild or it's an uncle.
It's within the home environment.
It's within that ecosystem. So we've got to have a society standing up, working together to make sure that we really cleanse the society out of this. We really insulate our communities out of the behaviors like this. That includes crime. So with the development that is happening in the Eastern Cape, we have attracted people who used to leave this province and work in eThekwini, in Gauteng. Now people are coming here because we've turned the province into a construction site. Big construction is happening here, and people are trying to do all the funny tricks that they would probably try their luck elsewhere. So it's a bad thing which we are condemning in the most strongest possible terms. And indeed also we would wish to convey our condolences to families who have lost their loved ones. So every day, before you sleep, you get an incident that so-and-so, a certain man has killed a girl. Even yesterday, I heard that story of a girlfriend who was killed by a boyfriend. You wake up, you hear such news. It's becoming common, such incidents. It's bad. It needs all of us, civil society, NGOs, traditional leaders, you guys from the media. We must begin to expose these issues. We must begin to talk about. We appreciate the mobilization that we're seeing happening out there, and it shows it's a start of the society trying to say enough is enough. So we want police to do their work.
The mobilization really has been quite immense in this case. It almost takes us back to when the Uyinene matter happened. And I think it's so important for people to really rally behind these issues, have their voices heard. But I think it's also important for people just to be careful with the information that they put out, because there's been so much misinformation that's gone out regarding this case. And, you know, we have to be responsible citizens and make sure that we're not spreading misinformation, that we allow the law to run its course for the processes to happen. So, I mean, I think it's really important that there is that support from a government perspective for what's currently happening. And I do believe that there has been support given to the family from social development perspective, just in terms of social services. So we do appreciate that. Premier, just in wrapping up, just you've mentioned a lot of initiatives in terms of economy, investment. You've spoken about the roads. I've been traveling quite a lot between the Eastern Cape and KZN lately, and it really has been great seeing how things are changing in our province, and it makes you feel proud, you know, for the province that we're coming up, because we lose our professionals and we lose our expertise to these other provinces, and there is a concerted effort to entice our people to come back, and for the people who are currently here to stay here, invest their time here, invest their professionalism in this province. Tell us a little bit, just in wrapping up, what are some of the big things that we can look forward to in the next 5 years? May not be something that you touched on, but going back on what you were saying about, it's not about looking at the term in isolation. It's the building blocks that have been laid by the previous administrations and where we're going as a province. Just in summary, some of the key things for the next 5 years, where we're headed, and beyond those 5 years, if at all possible for you to look that far ahead. I know it's not always possible, but what do we have in store in this province?
Clearly, I will do my part and leave. It's my second term as a premier, and I will never be a premier again. It's constitutional.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my part, working with the collective that I have, and I would want when I leave and look back and say I played my part. So I would call every South African, every person of Eastern Cape, part of the biggest problem we have in the Eastern Cape is self-hate. You look at it, the problem of Bulembu, Bishwa Airport, that has been cleared by public protector. It was made to be something that is worst thing that has ever happened. And some of people were leading that were journalists from Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Self-hate of people of Eastern Cape who stays in better places, Cape Town or Johannesburg, is a bad thing. So we've got a government. All people who are constructive must reach out to government and say, government, we've got these ideas. What can we do? Can we work together? Instead of chopping and doing everything that is being initiated, we said we want to declare Bulembu Airport as our international cargo hub. Mercedes has tried for more than 30 years here trying to set up an international airport. They failed. So, I mean, and they've told me when I was in Stuttgart, in Germany, say, we have been growing a plant in a city that is not growing. We're quite happy to hear that there are plans to develop an international airport. We've read about it. Please don't stop. Go ahead, regardless of who says what. Pursue that noble idea. And we are quite happy when we get this feedback from public protector to say, yes, there could be some teething problems here and there in terms of making it a point that this thing is followed to the latter. But we said so. Even in G20, we said we should be making that airport to be one of the airports that some dignitaries can land with their own private jets. Yeah. Because we have seen it now. No, all planes can land there. Boeings and everything can land there. So moving forward is to get things. When we went to China, Chinese told us one thing, that if you want to be rich, build roads, full stop. You can see how China is overtaking the developed countries from an economic point of view. They build road where there is no community. They build bridge where there is no community. Yeah. And then the community follows. Yeah. They just connect every corner in China. You see, it's a tunnel after tunnel. They've got technology, you know. So I've then realized that when you build road, that road must be followed by economic boom. You can't build a road of a 700 million between Alice and Fort Beaufort or a Deacon or Maqoma. But to date, there's nothing that shows around there. Yeah. That
it's not translated to
it's not translating into anything. That has been our weaknesses. But the issue is, as I've been saying, we are trying to revive our old economic zones, industrial zones, Timbaza. Government is putting a lot of money there to actually revitalize or rejuvenate those centers. But for them to operate, they need investors. Then mayors must, because all these are in mayors' areas, jurisdiction. Yeah. Mayors must have clear plans of getting that. And I said, we want investors more than they need us. No investor must be sent from pillar to post if an investor comes. If it means we must convene a special council meeting tomorrow, convene it.
There can't be red tape.
You can't allow a red tape to frustrate things. So you must kill this issue of people who are extorting business people. For me to do my work, I must ask, what is it? What's for
in
me?
It for me? Yeah.
You see, that's the biggest problem. It's a corruption that we must, the white collar crime that we've got to tackle and deal with it for people to focus. We want everybody in the Eastern Cape to be developmental, wherever you are. Play your part, build, because most of the time, those who stay good life, nice life in Sandton, they get frustrated when they come here for 2-3 weeks in December. Yeah. It's an end of the road. It's an end of the world to them because they're used to a different life. You see? So it's a terrible thing, but let's work together whilst you can still do something. Contribute. We don't want your money. We want your brain, your ideas. Throw some ideas. Let's work around. Government money has never been enough. But government money must be used in such a manner that it unlocks the private investment. The investors are out there willing to pump their money as long as they are able to make their money back. Yeah. So government must assure those investors around that
they will have a return.
Yes. So I'm saying we're working around that to ensure that the economy, let's deal. And I even say to our people, yes, it's important to understand the macroeconomics. But from where we are, let's focus on microeconomics. Because microeconomics, this is where you talk factories, where you talk firms, where you talk job creation. Macro, you're dealing with policies, issues. Treasury and national government, they are busy with that, including those international dynamics that are happening. Let's focus on the issue of micro. If we can still go and get an investor, even if that investor is in US now, let's go and get that investor to come and set up here, offer that investor. You can't have factories under ECDC lying fallow, underutilized in Fort Jackson, Timbaza, in Butterworth. Let's get everyone. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, what I like. If you look at agriculture, a lot of young people who have gone agriculture. There are young ladies who are working around Alice in rural areas of Digeni who are studying at Forte. Some of them are doing PhD as we speak. They are not from there. Some of them are from Flagstaff and the former Transkei. They went to Alice to study, but they saw an opportunity. They've set up the agricultural scheme that they're working on. Today, they're exporting butternut to Lesotho.
Yeah.
So those young girls. So those are 3 young girls. And we're saying, let's support those ones. And I can tell you, I can count to 10 young people that to date we have given them tractors with full implements. But I'm saying I'm not going to give you a tractor because you can theorize a lot. I must find you pushing working. A wheelbarrow with a 20 liter of water that you went to fetch to irrigate your small garden. And I see now that you mean business. You see, we need entrepreneurs more than tender people. Yes. So tenders are swelling economy. They are not growing the economy. You become good and rich and nice because we have got a big tender. When the tender is finished, you are just 2 months away from poverty. So entrepreneurs, they insist, they pursue, they follow their ideas until the logical conclusion. So we're looking at those people by Isikalo, support such kind of people who are committed and dedicated, who are not in business because there's a tender. A tender, even someone who has never built a house, put 1 brick, he will say, I can build these 100 houses that you say I must build, but he's going to go and buy a steel. You know, so we need genuine people, we need authentic people to help us turn around the economy. So that's the culture that we're trying to inculcate. As we move forward, we've got to build our province. Build our province. No one else is going to help us. No. This generation, it must be that generation that it must discover its mission and fulfill it, as Amika Cabral once said. So if we can postpone it, I know that procrastination is a thief of time. And I'm saying this because I'm one of the few young people, instead of staying and enjoying comfort of Gauteng, in 1996, I decided to come back here. When I came back here, I became a teacher of ABET. I started to get myself involved with community projects. The first preschool in my community was done by me, together with old women who were there. Now today we have got so many graduates. Even today we have got chartered accountants, doctors in my area, something that we have never thought about. Before. You see, because of that particular preschool, because some of us, we never went to preschool. There was never even an idea of a preschool. That there's something called a preschool. You went straight into the schooling system. You went straight to schooling system. And terrible environment schooling system. You learn along as you grow up, etc. So we've got to change that. And I'm happy that government is putting a lot of money on ECD to make sure that we are able to plant this seed in those younger ones, young as they are, so that they grow up relevant. We know she's good at this. You don't have to do something else for you to come back and do something else. You are good at this. Let's invest in what you are good at, support you, give you equipment, make you prosper, and create jobs for other people.
The Eastern Cape youth are a resilient youth, and we see that we run a weekly feature called Dispatch Careers, and on those pages we often highlight the type of stories that you're talking about. It's young people who are saying, I'm not going to wait for a handout. I'm not going to wait for someone to come and knock on my door. I am going to go out there and I'm going to create my own opportunities. So hearing that there is that opportunity for them to have access to funding, to support from the Eastern Cape government, from the Premier's office specifically, I think that's great. Premier, you did mention the Isikalo Youth Fund. Do you mind just briefly talking to us about that particular fund? How much money is available? How many youth has been assisted through that fund in the last 5 years, if you have that information?
We can send you the statistics. We can give you the addresses for people to follow up for your own.
Okay.
Just to check. I might not be able to give you,
No,
but I know very well. I've visited a couple of such young people.
Yeah.
I know the other one recently was given big printing machines, was in Queenstown. And now he says, I can't print in this corner where I'm working. I'm working at home in the backyard. I need a factory with what we have done for me. Because Scalo can buy you equipment up to $1 million to $2 million, depending on what you are looking for. That Scalo is there and it's open. I think people can visit the website of the OTP.
Okay.
They can get more information. I think the team of communication will follow up on that and see also how are we then public. It has got not enough money. But we are saying the legal money we have, 50 million that we are able to distribute, must be able to make a huge difference.
Positive
what I liked about those young girls that I met when we were celebrating the International Women's Day, they said, we don't want to make government our sugar daddy. They said so. That's a statement that they said.
Wow.
I wish you can arrange for them to come here and talk to you guys, those young girls.
No, we'll definitely get the contact details.
So you hear the young people saying such kind of things. Young men from Kubiso, Middle Drift called Sihle, who has been working up, now has employed so many people in the community, is working on those fields that are the plowing fields. So there is a lot. A young girl called Dintle in Alwal North who owns a farm that she got from her parents. Turned that farm. I visited her in her farm. Her farm is far difficult to get into, but I went there into that farm when I was an MEC for economic development for 8 months. She left me standing talking to her because the goats were giving birth across the river. Said, no, wait for me, but she didn't even know that I'm an MEC then. She went to look after the goats giving birth. She brought the goats. And brought everything back and started to have a conversation. Today, that young woman is far. She's one of those women, because I said from that day, we're supporting this one. We must go all out. We need to identify such kind of people, identify potential, work on that, support, push it.
Yeah.
So this is the point that we're making as a government of Eastern Cape, but we would want young people to participate because this is where we seem to be getting a lot of entrepreneurs. We want to look at the ICT space. We want to push the ICT space as much as we can. We want to go for e-commerce. We want to go for e-governance. So get all those things that can make us improve social service delivery to our people so that our people can get services proper at home without traveling a lot. We are looking at the issues of the climate change, which is causing a lot of problem for us. What alternative technology we should be investing on? We're working with CSIR and looking at a number of other options that are out there about provinces like KZN and Eastern Cape, even if you talk about rural roads. Remember, roads in the Eastern Cape, more than 90% of roads are rural because Eastern Cape has been neglected. It's a fact. So we're trying to work, but coming from a low base. Now a lot of work is being done. Sandral has we've given Sandral a couple of our big roads, which are rural roads but connecting towns.
Okay.
Like your T15 in Alfred Zoo that connects Maklesibeni to Tlogweng and Matatiel areas. You see T17 and the road that is here in Middle Drift, Durbanek, that goes down those areas as you call low. To other areas that connects to your Grahamstown areas. So those roads are now going to be done by Sandra. We've given them to Sandra. There are a couple of them. A road from Tsomo, crossing the Kai River up to Statarem to Kobo, down Mkhubiso to Middle Drift. Those roads, there are a couple of them. I think there are about 10 all in all. So we are trying to make sure that Eastern Cape is connected. We connect Eastern Cape electronically, through the ICT, we connect Eastern Cape through the road network. So that we are able to get logistics moving and it's easy for people to do business in Eastern Cape.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Premier. It was a very robust conversation and I appreciate you making the time to come and speak with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheri.
Thank you.
Okay. Ngos.